Good morning, Dual Coast fans. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Dual Coast Podcast. We are live right now with special guest this morning, Sondra Woods. Fellow Sondra, thank you so much for being with us this morning. As always, my co-host on the West Coast, Russ Rogers, with us also.
Let's go.
Go.
You know, it makes sense that you do this, Dan, because you just got like 25 inches of snow, so you got to heat up those hands, 30 inches. Woo!
30 inches.
He sent me a video yesterday of his front yard, and I was like, whoa. You could go skiing, Sondra, in Long Island. Forget going to California.
All those big mountains in Long Island.
Yes, yeah, we're not exactly mountainous terrain, that's for sure. But people yesterday were doing like the cross country thing in the middle of the streets, just getting their skis out and just trucking it down the street because the plows hadn't come yet, and there was like 6 inches, 7 inches of snow in the street minimum.
How fun is that, right?
Cool. It was cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Sondra, amazing to have you on Dual Coast this morning. I'm sure because you're here from California, I am sure that all your friends are alive and well this morning at 5:30 listening to you live because they don't want to miss hearing great advice from you.
Of course, I'm sure all my Pacific Standard Time friends are up at 5:30 in the morning. So good morning, you're welcome. Grab your coffee.
Cheers to that. It's such a pleasure to have you. We were mentioning off air that this month has been February, the Women of the Month, right? So we've had women guests all month long, and it has been tremendous. And to wrap up February with you is unbelievable. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for being our guest. And we were also talking about, it's been a while since we've had somebody that is really focused on fitness. We've talked to many business people who use fitness for their mindset, for their wellness, for their well-being. But it's been a while. We talked, maybe Johnny Gems was the last one that we've had on that was really focused solely on that. But, you're from California. You spent 22 years here in marketing at one of my favorite places to visit, which is the Boardwalk. And if people don't know and have never been to the Boardwalk, an amazing amusement park right on the beach, free entry, walk throughout. In fact, by the way, I took my grandkids there at Christmas time, and that was so much fun. There was nobody there, but we were there walking through the whole Christmas scene and, snow blowing. And it was such a great spectacle. Music, it puts you in the spirit. But 22 years at the Boardwalk marketing sales. Tell us about that experience. Tell us a little bit about your past, about how you got into wellness, how you got into yoga and instructing. I know we're going to talk detail and everything on that, but take us back so that everybody gets to know who Sondra Woods Fellows is today.
Absolutely, yeah. So I my whole life, like, fitness was always such a passion of mine. Like, I remember I was 10 years old and I was asking my mom for VHS tapes of, abs and glute workouts and stuff. And I ended up getting into marketing for the Boardwalk, which was an amazing 2 decades of experience. But at the same time, I was really, really dedicated to fitness. I was teaching all sorts of classes. But it was a lot, and as a young female, single, growing up, teaching, working, just climbing the corporate ladder, I remember looking at a photo of myself one day and I just didn't even recognize myself. And I walked into my boss's office and I was all over the place. I was talking about a fitness tracker I was doing. I was talking about something else I was involved in. And he's paused me and he just said, "Sondra, why don't you just live in the moment?" And when he said that to me, I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I didn't even really concept, like, what does that mean to live in the moment? And I was like, it has something to do with, I don't know, meditation, yoga, something. So I literally dragged myself to my first real yoga class that day, and it changed my life. Like, I'm still very passionate about fitness and the physical aspect of health and wellness, but now I'm so intrigued about kind of the intersection between the mental aspects, the mindfulness, the meditation, as well as the fitness aspects. And yeah, I ended up moving to San Antonio after getting engaged last year, and now I'm doing wellness full time. So super happy to be here and share my story and all the insights. And I think, being female, there's a lot of females out there that can relate with me. We're all kind of going through the same thing, and to get to hear different females' perspective and sort of talk about priorities and how we can really prioritize ourselves, I think is a conversation that needs to be had.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
before we dive completely into your life and fitness and everything, tell us, what was your favorite ride to ride at the boardwalk?
Oh, it has to be the Giant Dipper.
Giant
Amazing
Dipper.
roller coaster, 100 years old. Oh my
Wood roller coaster.
Yeah.
You know,
It's getting
it is pretty exciting.
rickety. But
It is pretty rickety.
yeah,
It
or
is
maybe
fun.
it's just my body that's changing. Probably. I don't know. But yeah, so much fun.
So if you come to the West Coast, get on the Giant Dipper. It is an amazing
Mhm.
ride, looking right down on the ocean.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I don't remember seeing that one. That's right on the boardwalk by you?
What?
I guess I must have.
You were on the pier right there. You didn't walk down the boardwalk then.
A little bit, but maybe not far enough to see that. It's a wooden roller. Maybe you do. Maybe
They're like here's the pier and here's the boardwalk. Like they're almost there's just a little bit of beach between.
Gotcha,
Not much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sure you saw it.
I was gonna say I must have seen it then. I'll be sure to check that out next time.
Or either that or you were focused on your girlfriend.
Could be that.
Smart man.
Good pitch. Good pitch.
By the way,
Yes.
I just want all listeners to know that something took place over the weekend.
I got engaged over the weekend. I did.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
I didn't know for a long time. I didn't know if he had it in him to really make this happen, or if he was just going to be, if Jenna was going to be a partner for life.
Yeah. I had it in me. Finally pulled the trigger.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So Sondra, 10 years old now, it dates you just a little bit when you talk about going back and looking at VHS tapes.
Rewind, Russell.
Yeah, that is so funny, VHS tapes. But you started getting into that transition. You're a young kid, you're talking to your mom, you're engaging into VHS tapes, you started to get into fitness. Then your boss says, let's focus on something, right? And you get focused. Now, you and I, we've hung out on the beach before. You walk up with your paddle board, you hit the waves. I know you because you have been very active all the years that I've known you. But what is the one thing that you, outside of training, what is one of the things for fitness that you absolutely love to do?
Oh, this is poignant because Tahoe's getting a ton of snow. And even though we're currently stationed in Middle Georgia, we are flying into Sacramento on Sunday and going to go hit the slopes. Probably Kevin Lee and Kirkwood. Snowboarding has been a huge passion. And I can't tell you how many times I'm snowboarding and when I'm snowboarding, you can't get me off that board. After 7-8 hours of snowboarding and my quads are burning, I thank God for fitness. I thank God for weightlifting. I thank God for body pump. But yeah, I do it to feel good. And that's the one thing. It's like, we want to stay fit, it doesn't matter what we look like, right? It matters that we're independent and we're training so we can do the things that we absolutely love, that I can go out and paddleboard for 2 or 3 hours and feel so good. I mean, my core is not going to be sore the next day. My legs aren't going to be sore the next day. I can snowboard 3 days in a row. It's these are the things that we, do it for you, do it for your happiness, because when our cup is filled, that's when we can pour into others. Right.
Yeah.
That's what life is all about, is lifting each other up. And if your cup is drained, you can't pour into other people's cups.
That's right.
It's kind of upward.
How are the slopes in Georgia?
There's a little slope on my backyard. We're on a little lake. It's pretty cute. The only traffic we have is a school of about 25 geese. We did have about a half of inch of snow about a month ago, and I threatened to bring out my snowboard, but I didn't do it.
Half an inch.
I tried.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Sondra, throughout your classes and your teaching, you teach motivation daily to a lot of your clients and patrons who come to, visit you. What would you say matters more long-term, motivation or discipline? And then how would you say you build discipline when motivation starts to fade?
Motivation versus discipline. I think you just have to find your why. That's what it is. Why are you waking up every morning? Why are you still getting up and doing the things you need to do when the things are hard, when you can just give up? right? Like once you find that why, just keep going, do it for yourself and keep showing up, because the problem is that everything in life, we use this in wellness coaching and in psychology, there's a term called the upward spiral. Like an object in motion tends to stay in motion. You start to do things for yourself, and then you start to eat better, you start to move more, you start to sleep better, you start to be more social, and it just grows and grows and grows. Same with the converse, is that there's this downward spiral. So if you're not doing the things like by showing up and, giving yourself time to exercise, time to be social, time to get out in nature, time to feel the sunshine on your skin, like that's also a downward spiral. So if you can see how, an object in motion stays in motion, and you need to do it for yourself in order to do it for everybody else, like that's all you need. Just keep reminding yourself day by day by day by day. And if it gets challenging, just keep coming back to that.
Yeah. That's so good. So good. What have you seen? We talked about California, San Antonio, Georgia, the last, 3 states that you've lived in, right? Texas. Is what do you see from each state? Okay, from those states, what have you seen in terms of fitness as a whole, as far as the communities? What is the difference? Like, I'm sure there is a difference in each of those states.
There's a huge difference. The Northern California, Central Coast area, everybody eats, sleeps, and breathes fitness. But that doesn't mean that, fitness exists in pockets everywhere else. It's just the way that they do it is a little bit different. San Antonio, there's so many things to do in these cities in Texas, and they're amazing. If anybody gets a chance to visit those Texas cities, they're wonderful. And they have their little pockets. Everyone has their little thing, and it's like, once you find that thing, there's a lot of Pilates studios that I found that people just love, a lot of bar studios in San Antonio. Whereas in Santa Cruz, there was a lot more sort of like family owned and operated kind of homegrown areas. And then in middle Georgia, it's different. People have the things that they love. Zumba is huge here. You're not looking at a Zumba person. But just to see people, and that's the one thing, it's that like, you don't need to conform. You don't need to do what everybody else is doing. You just need to find something that you love. If you love Zumba, go do Zumba. If you love weightlifting, go weightlift. If you love snowboarding, go snowboard. Just keep showing up, because if you don't use it, you absolutely lose it. I had a 96-year-old woman that would take my class in Santa Cruz, and she just says, just keep showing up, and even doing a small portion. If the rest of the class is doing 100% and you're doing 20%, at least you're still showing up. And that's 20% more than the people that are sitting at their couch at home. Right. And it goes for our bodies, and it goes for our minds, right? If we're not engaging our minds in a very positively challenging way, we can get very sedentary in our minds as well as our bodies if we're not moving our bodies often.
Yeah. Wow. That reminded me, a buddy of mine that lives in outskirts of Scotts Valley here locally. Back in the day, this was over 25 years ago, but there was a woman, their next door neighbor, kind of had this Winchester mystery house, kind of eclectic, kind of, build on this property. She was in her 90s, and she took classes at the local Cabrillo College, junior college, every year. She would take a class in her 90s, still going to the JC to learn. So in that same idea of really never stopping, right? As long as you can keep going physically and mentally.
Yeah. I think it was Gandhi has this quote that says, live as if you're going to die tomorrow, learn as if you're going to live forever. I just love that.
That is so good.
Very true.
Wow.
It's funny because that's, a lot of that plays into mindset, and Russ is going to, Russ knows I bring this up every single podcast. But it's true, because 90 years old, you have to have the mindset to want to go to the gym. You're probably somewhat physically limited, I would say. Most people in their 90s are somewhat physically limited, arthritis, so and so. So you have to have that mindset to kind of push yourself in order to get in there. And that takes a lot sometimes, because you don't see too many 90-plus-year-olds going to do fitness classes, or even 85-plus-year-olds going to do fitness classes. It just comes down to it a little bit. But yeah. Sondra, as an Air Force wife, I'm sure life can kind of be a little bit unpredictable. You've moved around a few times in the past couple of years. How would you say you personally stay grounded when life feels a little bit out of control?
I meditate. I light a candle. I shut the door. I turn my phone on do not disturb and I meditate for 15 minutes because like that's what it starts with for me. And if my mind is, if the world is spinning around me and my mind is spinning with it, it's chaos. But the world can still spin around me. And if my mind is focused and I'm in the present, I am just fine. And that's the one thing about that why I love teaching mindfulness and meditation is because it allows us to see what we can control and what we can't control. And once we see that we can't control the world that's spinning around us, we can't control where the Air Force sends us next, right? But we can control what we make of it, right? Like we're here in Middle Georgia and we're so close to so many amazing things. We're getting a chance to see places we would have never had a chance to see. So just changing that around and just seeing the beauty and constantly, looking for the best instead of the worst. It's powerful.
Amazing. Yeah. So you met somebody that's in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. And you made the transition of a couple of different, cities and states. But tell us about the experience that you just had recently with the 500 Air Force men, and walk us kind of how that came about and what you actually did with these 500 men and women.
Yeah. So I, as a certified wellness coach, I love to do one-on-one wellness coaching. I absolutely love to do group wellness coaching. We were talking a little bit offline is that, a lot of people that need wellness coaching, they can't really afford wellness coaching, right? And it's the people that can't really afford it or maybe not know that they need it that really, they're the ones that need it. And so when a company, an organization can like bring in someone to do a group wellness coaching session, in this sense, I always incorporate meditation and mindfulness in my wellness coaching sessions. I went to a training event in St. Louis. My husband is the group commander of all Air Force International Reserve recruiting. So we were there and they were just celebrating, all their wins from last year, talking about strategic goals moving forward to keep the airmen coming in and reaching their goals. And there was a big storm that came through. I don't know if you heard about the big ice snow storm that was coming through Atlanta, Midwest a couple of weeks ago. And it forced us all to either fly in earlier or wait, et cetera. And we ended up flying in early, which was wonderful. And unfortunately, they had a speaker that was going to speak about comprehensive airman fitness, self-care harmony. And the person had to cancel their flight. And I was sitting there as they were discussing what they were going to do. And they were talking about bringing in a big screen and having this person get zoomed in with a room of 500 people. And I'm like, no, put me in. This is what I do. This is what I do. And I put together a slide deck. We compared it to his slide deck. It was pretty much mano y mano. So the message that they were trying to get across could be delivered by someone with just a different lens. And so I had a great opportunity to get up on stage and talk to them about comprehensive self-care, talk about, self-wellness. And I was really, really, really what I'm trying to do is let people know that like wellness isn't just the physical aspects, and the physical aspects are the stuff that we can see. It's tangible. It's the stuff that's very Instagram worthy, but the things that we can't see and the things that are more important and is the foundation, just as I talked about, starting my day with meditation, is our mental health. Because if you don't have the right mindset, how are you going to make conscious choices on what to eat? How are you going to make conscious choices on what to do with your body? How are you going to make conscious choices on, your sleep patterns, et cetera? So it starts with the mindfulness piece. And then everything else can kind of grow from that, using that upward spiral that we talked about. And that was like really, really, really my point, is that really, really have to start with that mental aspect. But my second point is that it's so easy and it's so accessible and it's so inexpensive. It's literally free. There's so many free apps. There's Headspace. That's one of the most popular ones. There's meditation teachers that you can find all over the internet in person. There's so many resources out there, and it's so easy, it's so accessible. And one other thing too is that like, I remember when I heard about meditation and I was like, I'm so busy. What if I add one more thing to my plate? Like, I'm going to explode. But the truth of the matter is, when you add mindfulness and meditation, it doesn't make your plate overflow. It actually allows you to see your plate and then give you the opportunity to like say, you know what, that in my life is not a hell yeah. So I'm going to say hell no. And it gives us the opportunity to like start putting those boundaries on ourselves and like clearing our plate off and really looking at our priorities and spending our time more consciously, more wisely. And so it's counterintuitive. You think if I add meditation, my life is going to be simpler. That's the magic of it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Sondra, when you teach mindfulness and you sit down with clients and you have to kind of get your point across or portray what you're trying to say, I would imagine it has to come with sitting with some uncomfortable stuff about yourself as a client. How about in terms of you? Was there something that you had to confront about yourself that might have changed your trajectory personally?
Yeah, I think so. I think like with me, I was trying to climb the corporate ladder, and I was doing what I was doing for other people and not for myself. And I really had to stop, chasing the dollar and chasing the status and really go after what was really important to me. So that's kind of been driving me lately.
Yeah. Because I would imagine that when you sit down with a client, you kind of have to face everything. It's not just a matter of, everything's positivity here. We have to kind of separate the positive and the negative and try to push forward.
Yeah. And a lot of it too. And what I experienced is that if we don't sit with our demons, if we don't sit with our stories, if we don't process our stories, if we don't digest kind of the traumas we've been through. I mean, when I was in that room with 500 airmen, I said, okay, raise your hand if you haven't been through a childhood trauma, and not one person in that room raised their hand, right? But what people do, what we tend to do in our society, it says, you must stay busy, you must be productive. And so we're constantly filling our time with our phones, we're getting distracted, filling our days with just ridiculous errands and stuff like that. And if we just start to clear it out, and just sit with ourselves. And for a lot of people, they can't sit with themselves because things start coming up that maybe they haven't, sat with since they were a child. So once you start to kind of look at those things and also too, like with mindfulness and meditation, I always give the example of like muscles. Like you go to the gym, right? And you go to the gym once, you're not going to be strong. You have to keep going over and over and over again. And that's the same thing with the mind, is that the more we are mindful, the more we meditate, the more the mind can kind of like hone in and really see clearly. And then we can really see like what we need to do. It's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think, like mindfulness and meditation, because we're living in a society right now where, mental illness is at an all-time high.
Yep.
And how do you take somebody who is struggling, right, with that illness? And of course, there's a wide variety of things, but how do you take mindfulness and meditation and really speak to somebody who's really struggling with some mental obstacles?
I'm working with a couple of private clients, and I give them my heart. I give them my all. Like I actually grew up in a very abusive household when I was younger. And I don't think I could have gotten through where I am because of that. And it's interesting because once you start to look back and you start to see the things that like made you who you are, if I didn't grow up in that household, I wouldn't have had the passion to go on and study psychology in college and then go on and study fitness and study yoga and study meditation and mindfulness. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, this actually healed me. Like I was actually able to forgive, my stepfather for the household that he raised me in, because that's all he knew, right? It's like, I'm going to be the one that's going to stop the cycle of abuse. And like, if other people that are struggling with their story, with childhood traumas, they're still storing in their body, not sitting with, not processing or whatever, if I can share my story and say, hey, listen, like it's possible to stop the cycle of abuse, and it can stop with you right here, right now. Like, and say like, maybe I remember I was saying something to myself over and over again, and I stopped myself and I was like, why are you saying that, Sondra? And I realized it was my grandmother. in my head. And she was saying, Sondra, you're too this or you're too that. Something that a lot of the older generations, say are like, you're too fat, you're too skinny. And I stopped and I said, you know what? That's not me talking to me. That's my grandmother talking to me. And it's okay, because that's probably what her mom and her grandmother said to her too. So to be able to like forgive that person and move on and be like, let's stop this generational trauma in its tracks right here, right now.
Mm.
And we have to do
I love that. I love that it can stop with you. It's fantastic, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, not just with you, but anybody that's listening that is in that position right now. It can stop with you.
It can stop with you, and it's possible. And all you have to do is say, I can. And if you say, I can't, then it's not going to stop with you. Like, your progress stops there if you say, I can't. But if you want to continue to grow, if you want to continue to change, if you want to continue to improve yourself and everybody else around you, you have to lean into the uncomfortableness, lean into the challenges, because that's where growth happens.
Yeah.
Get uncomfortable. Right?
Get uncomfortable. Heard that word a time or two.
Yeah. We say, like, shine the light on the dark spots in your life, like bring your shadow to light and shine a light on it. And that's when challenge turns into change. Yeah.
Interesting. Sondra, you're a coach, you're a military spouse. When you strip all that away, let's say, who would you say you are at your core? Who would you say Sondra is at her core? You ever lost that identity anywhere?
I am someone that believes in the good in every single human being. I am the person that sees the good in every single challenge. I'm a person that can find, a speck of color in a heap of gray dust. That's just who I am at the core, no matter what I'm going through, whether it's, difficult times in my life, whether it's in my career, personal life, etc. It's just like, I just keep going, keep saying yes and keep expecting the best, but also embracing my imperfections. That's like another thing that I've grown. Like, I can be silly, I can be goofy. When there's a microphone in front of my mouth, some people can attest to this, some stupid stuff comes out of my mouth. You know what? I own it. I lean in. It's my, one of my perfectly perfect imperfections.
Let's ask those 500 Air Force men and women.
Yeah.
There were some questionable words that came out of my mouth that made for some really fun conversation and a lot of fun things. So
that's good.
I'm happy to entertain as well as educate.
Way to step in, though, man. You stepped in, you stepped up. You said, I do this. This is what I am.
Put me in, coach. Hold my kombucha.
Were you prepared at all to do that? Like, were you like ready to give that speech, or you kind of just put yourself in you're like, I'm going to do this? Did you have
I've worked with companies, mostly in San Antonio and a little bit here in Middle Georgia, who've hired me to do group wellness coaching sessions. Right. And so what I do is I give the wellness coaching session, but I really lean in on the mental mindfulness meditation part of it. Okay. And so I took that concept, basically what I was telling you guys earlier about, how it starts with the mind and how easy and accessible it is. And I overlaid the Airman Comprehensive Fitness Guide, which actually aligned perfectly with the sectors of wellness that we talk about in wellness coaching. So it was perfect. It was the last minute thing, but it was my dream come true. That's awesome. It changed my life, and I am so ecstatic that I'm able to dedicate my life to helping other people change theirs as well.
That's awesome. Because it's not exactly easy just to get up in front of 500 people and just be like, yep, we're going at this.
I know. And they all work for my husband. So I'm like, no pressure here.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so amazing. Yeah. I remember a time because we hung out on the beach mainly on the weekends with our group of friends, mutual group. And so I remember a time, Sondra, that, you've always, as long as I've known you, you have always been fit. But there was one time I didn't see you for a little bit, and then you came to the beach and you were like shredded. And I was like, holy smokes, like what? Like, you were fit, but then you went shredded. And I was like, what in the world happened? Do you recall that? Do you recall that transition?
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay. Can
I
you, the
do.
reason I bring it up is what was it that you went from fit to shred, for lack of better words? What did you do? What was the process? Because, people, we all have a little bit of, fat to us, or, we overeat or whatever. But what in that transition, how did you get to that point?
To be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I just like everybody, I fluctuate. I got the clothes that are fit. I got the clothes that used to fit. I got, and I think that moment that you were talking about, my stepfather had just recently passed away. And that's why, like, when I see people and I see people like shrinking, I'm always like, I ask them, are you okay?
Yeah.
Because it starts with the mind, right? And I'm not saying that was a bad thing. I'm saying that, like, I think that moment when my stepfather passed away, I was really looking at my own life and what I was doing. I was in a 10-year relationship that wasn't satisfying. And it allowed me to really see that life is so short. So, I got out of that relationship. I started really, really, really just like, I think too, like when you go through like a death, you kind of lose your appetite a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really just started just focusing on my own health, and it started with that, and again, like I said, I go up and down, here and there, depending on what's happening. but yeah, it starts with the mind. And that's the thing too, when I see people, gain weight, lose weight, they could be in a really good mindset and they've just put on a little bit of weight because they're in a really, really happy relationship and they're going and they're, eating big, rich meals together, whatever. Or, they could be going through a breakup, and they're like losing their appetite and stuff. So
Sure.
Starts with the mind.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sondra, we have a quote or a saying that we usually like to ask our guests at the end of the show. And that quote or saying is, wellness is not about perfection, it's about progress. What would you say that means to you?
Yeah, it's like one size does not fit all. Okay. So if we're trying to follow someone on social media and eat what they're eating and do exactly what they're doing, it's not going to work. We need to figure out things that work for us and things that, from a nutrition standpoint, from a movement standpoint, from a rest and recovery standpoint, things that really are satisfy us and are true to our own soul, and just keep doing it, because it's not going to be a one-day thing, a one meal thing, a one stop at the gym thing. It's an everyday thing, and if you take that mindset and you say they eat healthy, they go to the gym, no, I am healthy, I eat healthy, I exercise, I, make yourself really already embody that healthy person that you want to be, and let that just keep driving you. And have a cheat meal, have pizza and beer with your friends because it's going to satisfy your social soul. It's but day to day to day to day to day, make it a lifestyle, live it, lean into it, own it. And it's so fun. I mean, my classes are not only my workouts, but they're my social hour.
Sure.
That's my bar.
Yeah.
That's where I go. I'm BARRE, my bar.
So you're heading off to a class in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So what is that class?
So I'm here at one of the gyms I teach at Fitco Perry, and I'm teaching a weightlifting class, body pump. So we do muscle endurance training, we do high rep training. I started teaching it about 15 years ago. It's amazing. And I'm another one of the things that I love to inspire. I know people love their cardio, but we need to weight train. We really need to weight train. I think I read a stat that when we turn 30, every decade, we naturally lose 10% of our muscle to natural muscular atrophy. So it's if we lose 10% at 30, then we lose 10% more at 40 and 10% more at 50. I like to say, be like vanilla ice. If you got a problem, I'll solve it. Just keep increasing your weight training as you get older. So yeah,
it's so true.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
It's fun because it's choreographed to music and we do it in group setting. So there's a lot of group energy. The music is amazing. So it makes weight training very, very enjoyable.
That's definitely
awesome.
key too for people to disassociate like during the classes and stuff like that, because I feel like a lot of people don't want to focus on just that lifting. They just want to they want to be able to disassociate. They get a little bit of social hour in. You can engage with music, you keep it fun and stuff like that. I think that helps with a lot of people's training, because me personally, like when I get on the Stairmaster, I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Like, you have to disassociate as best as you can. So I think that's a key thing, like class-wise. And I think that's why, Russ, you agree with this community. I think it's huge with training. I think it helps people uplift, allows you to focus a little bit more, and allows you to push 100%. A little bit harder when people are around you, as opposed to trying to do it by yourself.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
I mean, I get in the garage, I do my workout, but when I'm walking, out early in the morning, usually it's dark when I get out and get my walk in, and but I'll pass other people that are walking, and even though I may not know them, or maybe I pass regularly the same people, I always love to say good morning to them, whether they respond or not. Like it's it's community, but with no discussion. Like just to say hello to somebody, it makes me feel good, whether they respond or not, and so building that community of people, because I do come across some of the same people all the time. And so, community is everything. And Sondra, you had a great community here when you were in Santa Cruz. And I know that everywhere you go, you build community around you, because that's the kind of person that you are.
Yeah. And I personally, I found group fitness when I was very young. I just fell in love with that. I think I was like 14 when I took my first step class. But it's just such a great way to just create community. And as a fitness instructor, living in San Antonio, living in Middle Georgia, it's really a great way for me to build community. It's also a great way to like I'm at this gym here, and there's a couple of women who just saw us in our class, and now they're in our class every week. And it's, they were that person that was just walking around doing the machines for an hour, and now they're part of this little mini community of people, of like-minded people that are working together for the same goals. So it's pretty powerful group fitness.
Sure. Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, Sondra Woods, fellows, it's been amazing. It's great to see you again. Great to connect. Been a great guest, offering some amazing advice today. Thanks for coming on to Dual Coast and sharing a little bit about who you are, what you've gone through, your transitions, through life, and what mindfulness and meditation mean to you, and what it can do to enhance other people's lives where they're at right now.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sondra, where can people find you?
You can find my website, mindfulimpactwellness.com. And you can find me on all the socials at Sondra Woods Fellows.
Awesome. Sondra Woods Fellows, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Guys, have a great class.
Have a great class.
Thank you.
Body pump, get everybody jacked up, shredded. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll see everybody next week.